Okay, everybody, welcome back. Again, if you've just joined, welcome to another Welcome to the Pico System. My name is James. I'm the community manager at EOT Labs and Peak Network and the host for Welcome to the Pico System AMAs. Today, we're going to be speaking with BigWater and excited to dive into their DeSci DePIN. But first, as always, we do have a little housekeeping to take care of. First and foremost, every week I say this, every space that I host, I say this. We live in a Web3 environment, and this means that there are people that are constantly trying to take advantage of our community as we gain popularity. As things progress, we're seeing more and more scams, especially surrounding the Get Real campaign and other potential airdrop opportunities. So please, always be careful when you're clicking links and joining communities. You can always go to our website, peak.network, to verify the community that you're in is official. And if you have any questions, always feel free to reach out to our moderators in our official Discord or myself to verify that the link that you are seeing is, in fact, the correct link. We can never be too careful in a Web3 environment. Along with that, I have to remind you that anything that is discussed in this AMA, of course, is not financial advice. So please, DYOR and NFA, as they say. However, I am excited to introduce another DePIN to you guys, the community. Secondly, we do take questions from the community. I know that we've received some feedback that perhaps we don't leave enough time at the end. So I will try to keep an eye on questions. And if there's anything relevant to the AMA or to BigWater, we will try to get those at the end if we haven't already covered them through the AMA. But we are going to be talking about a lot of different things. So hopefully your question will get answered through the AMA. And finally, oh, sorry, mic went dead. And finally, this is something that we do every week. So if you're new here, hopefully we will see you back next week. It is my job as the community manager to help introduce all of these amazing DePINs to you, the community, so you guys can go out and support these DePINs, learn about them, maybe participate in them if you choose to. But we have a really amazing ecosystem that is growing very rapidly. And with projects like BigWater, I'm really excited to see what the future holds for us. So without further ado, today, like I said, we are speaking with BigWater. Now, what they are is a DePIN / DeSci, and I think we're going to have to get into DeSci because we've got a lot of new acronyms that are, in the space these days, that is solving two of the world's largest universal problems: clean air and clean water. So BigWater DePIN devices are powerful air purifiers that allow users to participate in the protocol by sharing weather data while getting clean air that they and their family will benefit from. There, of course, are token rewards because it's a DePIN and there's a profit sharing mechanism. There's an NFT that I want to get into, but this is a single initiative that not only captures proof of delivery, but proof of impact. And so supporting the climate change transition in an easy and compelling manner. So I didn't want to dive too deep into the description today because I think I want to hear it from the source because this is a really fascinating use case and a really fascinating project. So welcome to the AMA, Brog. How are you doing?
Hey James, hi. Thank you very much, and I am so excited. I feel like a child, So thank you for having me. Thank you all for coming in and taking the time. I can't wait to tell you more about what we're doing.
You're very welcome. I can't wait to hear more. Now, first of all, did I pronounce your name correctly? I think that's the thing that I'm worried about, Kurt, always.
Yes, you got Parag right, and that's me. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so because I gave pretty much a very skeletonized version of what BigWater is, I thought maybe my first question to you is, could you talk to us a little bit about what the project is? Like, where did you come up with the idea? What inspired you to, to launch BigWater? And what are the problems that you're trying to solve? And how is this going to solve those problems?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question, and and that's where, and in fact, that's the fundamental strength of this particular initiative. So let me take a few paces back and kind of share that this is actually a real world use case that has already been in play and in action and in execution for over 12 years now. We've already been working on the ground. We've been delivering clean water to communities over 12 years. We've delivered over 200 million liters of water. We have 2 million subscribers and over a billion data points that have been collected over this period. So we've been practicing DePIN for almost 10 years now, in the real world, in the Web 2 world. Now, that is pretty much the genesis of where BigWater comes from. So, BigWater is actually the Web 2 initiative that is now extending itself into the Web 3 world, where we believe that we've been working for almost 3 years now to find this very fine alignment between the two. And as we call it today, we believe the Big Water token or the Big Water protocol stands at the intersection of the metaverse and the universe, where because clean water cannot be made available purely virtually. It has to be done also in the physical world because it is the real world, it is life. Therefore, it was very important to find the right alignment where the two worlds meet. And this is where we've coined the Big Water protocol. Our DePIN devices, it had to be a DePIN protocol. It had to be DeSci, and because it's in situ data that we'll basically be gathering, and we've been able to kind of create this very simple yet highly valuable intervention where our DePIN devices are powerful air purifiers that clean millions of liters of air on a daily basis to benefit households and the commercial environments that they would operate in, while on the other hand, each device gives 1,000 liters of clean water to underserved communities in the world. So, yeah, I mean, that's where we come from. And, lots more to tell. So, back to you.
Yeah, I was reading the description and going through the website and seeing all the things, and it's really fascinating. I really enjoy talking to projects that have been around for a long time and have been sort of developing their product for a while. And so I think it's really interesting that you guys have been doing this for 12 years before you jumped into sort of the Web3 sphere. So what kind of perspective, I guess, what kind of how does that inform your approach today, and what have you seen sort of change over the last decade, as far as the how we approach providing these clean air and clean water solutions?
So I think decentralization is the fulcrum of all of this. So we've been practitioners of the decentralized format of distribution of making increased access to clean water, and we believe that the fundamental decentralized format of the Web3 world is what is the primary alignment. And this is where lies the real power, where power is vested from those who wield it, and it is thrust into the hands of the citizen. It is thrust into the hands of people. People can now take charge of their own lives, and that is very important. And empowerment, money is a way to is a ways to the means, but it's very important for people to have their fundamental rights in place, and those rights are also on resources. So, clean air and clean water are two fundamental rights that people are now devoid of, and people are actually having to struggle to cope with these challenges. And this is where we thought that while we've been focused on clean water for over a decade now, it's very important. And how can we basically, without pivoting away or without moving away from our clean water focus, how can we basically create a tether between and solve another grand societal challenge as is bad air, which 95% of the world is currently breathing or forced to breathe. So how can we basically go out, solve two problems in one go in a very simple, technology enabled, technology backed, and verified manner? Um, so a lot of people have challenged us, questioned us. Why did you ever need to come to the blockchain world? Why did you need to come to the? Why do you need a token? And I think the blockchain is really required for proof of impact. It's required for proof of delivery. It's required so people can be sure of the fact that there is a real world activity genuinely conducted on ground. It's not just a figment of somebody's imagination. It's not a piece of creativity that somebody's just built a report, sent it back, and said, okay, we did this. So that's where everything comes together. And I have to also say that the evolution of on the Web3 side, where the search for use cases has actually unraveled this entire DePIN narrative, which is really, really powerful. I mean, I personally strongly believe that the next 3 to 5 years, we will be seeing a lot of Web3 companies, DePIN companies, going out and acquiring Web2 companies, and actually expanding their footprint on ground.
That's a really fascinating observation. I think that, you know, we're going to see that connection. We're going to see that, as you said, that acquisition of Web 2 into Web 3. One thing that we talk about a lot in this series is the concept of bringing Web 3 technology into a Web 2 space. And, I often say that 5 years ago, we had a very much different view than we do today. Because 5 years ago, when we talked about blockchain, there wasn't a lot of utility. There wasn't a lot of reach into real world applications. But this time, like currently, we have this line of sight to these Web 2 use cases using Web 3 technology. So I think that's a really interesting perspective that, we might start seeing acquisition of Web 2 companies by Web 3 to get that reach in. I also think, providing solutions to real world problems like what we're talking about today, and like a lot of the other DPINs are working with, is that it's going to be that anchor point. It's going to be that thing that gets people really using Web 2 apps, Web 3 apps, Web 3 devices, because they don't think about it as blockchain or crypto anymore. They think about it as, I have an air purifier that I can earn from, and I know that I'm contributing to a greater cause, which makes me feel good about myself. Not only am I getting clean air, not only am I providing clean water, but I'm also being rewarded for my efforts as well. So I think there's a lot of potential there, like you said, as we move forward. I did want to ask about the NFT and the clean water. So maybe less about the NFT, because I think that's, when we talk about proof of impact, I think that's going to come up again. But you have an air purification device, but you also say that with this device, you get to provide, 1,000 liters of clean water. How is that connection made? And how does that work?
So the NFT, let me kind of define the NFT. The NFT is the hidden gold nugget in this entire project, and I'll elaborate further on why I say that. The ability to deliver 1,000 liters of water in an extremely frugal, sustainable, and equitable manner is something that we've developed over the last 12 years. We have a patented tech platform in water management that manages water from water source to water treatment to water distribution to water consumption. And all of this data is already being brought on chain. It's already been captured in the form of, so we've been gathering 33 metrics for every water dispensing transaction we've done in the last 12 years. Now, by adding the DePIN device in the form of an air purifier, we're going to get up to close to 80 data metrics for that we'll be putting together. And this is where the entire solution compounds and has a force multiplier effect on basically what we are trying to do. Coming back to the NFT is basically, let's say, for example, James has bought 5 devices, and James holds 5 NFTs, which is a proof, which is backed by proof of delivery of 5,000 liters, uh, and tied to those 5 NFTs. The way we understand water and the way we understand sustainability and ESG, we believe that just like the world has been working on offsetting their carbon emissions through carbon credits, and ESG now demands that corporations offset their water footprint and they control their water footprint. Now, we don't believe that a jeans manufacturer that consumes 10,000 liters of water to manufacture one pair of jeans is ever going to be able to bring that down to 6,000 liters. So the only way they can actually offset that is by buying a water credit. And that's when these NFTs, this, thousands, hundreds and thousands, maybe millions of NFTs that are out there will become worth their weight in gold. Because that's when corporations can actually be offered these verified, authenticated, backed by data NFTs to offset their water footprint. And that's when we'll go back to our communities and actually have a transaction there and reward them for those NFTs at a later point in time.
Okay, so it's based on trading water credits. That makes a lot of sense. I think that's easy to understand, and it has the potential to have, like you said, significant impact, and then become extremely valuable as we get adoption into the industry with that. I did notice that you are already working with an organization for that. Your anchor partner. Um, did you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so that's the water company. It's called Jana Jal. So for those who are from India, they will understand Jana means people, Jal means water. So that's been our anchor partner, who's been, and that's what I've been talking about for the last 12 years. It's a tech enabled water services company, making clean water available to households in a decentralized, tech-enabled manner. Uh, Last mile distribution to people's doorsteps for as little as 1 euro cent per liter. Now that is the real power that we are now taking to the Web3 world, where we wish to continue to do that and serve more and more people by bringing them under the ambit of safe drinking water. Janajal enjoys huge amount of validation and credibility. We've worked with every large organization in the world, the USAIDs, the UKAIDs, the GSMA Innovation Fund, Government of India, various charitable foundations, organizations, corporates, the top 500 in the world companies, several out of them. So we've worked in conjunction with every type of stakeholder, and that's where we possess the ability, the experience, the expertise, and the execution skills to be able to perform this on the ground. So we are really a band of executioners. I mean, between our execution team, we probably have 300 years of execution experience collectively, and that is what really is going to be our biggest USP. We believe if we back ourselves to be the first ones to get to 100,000 devices and then 1 million devices in the shortest amount of time. And that's where we want to really make DePIN the main, or become a champion of the DePIN cause to the world.
Yeah, that's great. I think that it's a really good transition to sort of my next line of questioning, and we've talked about this a little bit, but one of the stats that I read that was shocking to me is how many people, die prematurely every year due to contaminated air. So typically at this point, I would ask something about how, your project is going to impact ordinary individuals. But I think that's extraordinarily clear when we talk about providing clean air and clean water. But how does that number 8.1 million, and knowing that you are doing something to help that, you know, what kind of motivation is that for you, and how does that sort of play in the big picture of the project?
That is pretty much the reason why we are here to do this. I mean, 8.1 million people are the ones who got counted. I mean, the ones who didn't come into the counting is probably as many who got left out. What you have to also understand is, I mean, we come from India, and I'll give you a stat on the India side. Due to bad air, if you're living in Delhi or in the northern part of the country, you could be losing 11.9 years of your life. Of the last 11.9 years of your life could get shortened because of the bad air. Now, think about the impact of that. The amount of people the children, young kids, babies, youngsters, I mean, kids are not allowed to go to school on bad air days. They're asked to stay at home. I mean, sporting events come to a grinding halt because the sports persons can't breathe because they're breathing heavier and they're choking because the air is so bad. So I'm just saying it's not just an India centric problem, it's a global problem. It's as bad in South America, it's as bad in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia, in America. So the point is that bad air is a serious problem. I mean, Brian Johnson visited India recently, and we all know it was a mainstream conversation for several days. Um, this is the reason why we wish to do it. We are not looking at that 8.1 million number, very honestly. We're looking at that 80 million, that 800 million that are really suffering on account of bad air. And they will just compound. That number is not going to ease up at any point in time.
And so I guess the follow-up question to that is, like I said, it's very easy to draw a straight line between the project's initiatives and the impact it has on individuals. But what kind of, you know, larger sort of space-wide impact can you see the project having? I mean, whether it's locally within your region of India or globally, what do you think this might lead to in the future?
I think this really will lead to a lot of awareness. This will lead to a lot of conscientiousness. A lot of people are doing, are taking, are adopting these interventions in their personal lives. It's not that installing an air purifier. Probably a lot of the audience that we have here already has them in their house. But when was the last time you also gave clean water to communities? Along with that, when was the last time you were actually rewarded for actually undertaking a sustainable action? I think the adoption of sustainable actions is going to get accelerated, and that is what we wish to really stimulate. That mindset, that approach in people, where it's like, because air belongs to nobody. If you're cleaning air in your room, that air does not stay in your room. So I mean, the way we think about it is, imagine a million devices sitting in Bangkok and just cleaning air. Is the overall air going to improve by a notch? I'm not saying too much, and it's always very difficult to quantify it. But even if it gets better by a notch, then that's real impact. That's real value addition to, and that's where people really need to, uh, take the scores up with that objective. And I think we'll be able to drive that message home. We'll be able to kind of let people know that be the do-gooder that you always wanted somebody else to be. You always expected someone else to be. You can now do it without having to do anything outside of what you would anyways do.
I think that's a really, again, a very interesting way to look at sort of broader impact. A lot of the times, with DePINs, especially with data-driven DePINs, we talk about how, we're going to change the industry, how we are going to, change the way that businesses work. But, the answer that you just provided of, we hope that from a broad perspective, this changes the way people think about their day to day, by bringing awareness, by giving people the power to make a difference and allowing them to make better choices and educating them on those choices, I think is really important because it's, we don't, as they say, we don't lose sight of the forest through the trees, because the individuals that we're helping to impact can then move on and have a greater impact in their local area. And I also think, for a brief moment, I had a thought of, well, how are we going to improve the overall air quality if we just are talking about air purifiers that are sitting in homes? But the reality is, the majority of people spend a significant amount of time in their home. And if you can improve the air quality in your immediate space, then that is going to hopefully reduce that 11.9 years that you were talking about in northern India, and also anywhere else that has, access to these air purifiers. Because even where I am in Canada, where I live in a fairly rural area that doesn't suffer from a lot of industrial pollution, we do have our bad days. But I know that one of the stats is air quality in the home can sometimes be much worse than air quality outside, even on bad outside air days. So, I think there is a lot of individual impact, and then taking this platform and using it to, provide that awareness to everybody. It's a really great cause. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I think it's a really well thought out and plotted plan.
Thank you, James. I have to tell you, one of the most common feedbacks we get is that finally there's a deepened device that adds value to people's personal lives. That's one of the most big. It's not just a dumb device that is sitting in a corner, guzzling some energy, and just doing one function, which is a quasi minor, or kind of giving you some rewards in some form or the other. This is adding genuine value to your lives on a daily basis. It's going to be tracked. It's going to be, we'll make sure that your filters are replaced on time. We'll have that filter cartridge show up at your doorstep whenever your filter is due for replacement. It's a very, very simple yet highly effective and self-serving model. And when I say self-serving, means it does not require too much of high-tech intervention. Nobody needs to go out and do heavy configurations. It'll just tether to your Wi-Fi or to your Bluetooth device, which is your phone, through using Bluetooth, and simply start working for you. And that is like you rightly said, that is the real power of this. What is important is that the device needs to be kept on. So people tend to buy air purifiers, but they operate it for 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day. They operate it for 2 months in a year, and that is again something which, it's like drinking safe water sometimes in your life. It's not going to work like that. It's got to be consistent. That is when quality of life really gets affected in a positive manner, and that is the culture that we are trying to inculcate in people's mind.
Yeah, and a great segue to talking about the device. Is this something that we can acquire now? Is there, a release upcoming for this? Maybe talk a little bit about the device itself.
Absolutely. Our teams are working 24/7. They're just, and we're, so let me announce this here. 10th of March, 10th of March, people will be able to come to our website, bigwater.io, and will be able to buy their device. These devices will be available. There is one model that we are starting with in terms of launching. There are other models lined up, but for now, we will start the pre-sales, have people come in, participate, and get incentivized to become early movers. We will make sure that we're getting everything in place very, very quickly. And hopefully, we're expecting tremendous response. The kind of feedback we are getting, I think we should be inundated with on the 3PL side, which is the logistics sides of getting the devices out in people's hands. On our wait list, there are already people from 18 countries around the world that have put themselves on the wait list. And that is extremely encouraging. And a lot of them are also writing in saying, we are not doing this for the love of money. We're doing this for the love of the cause. We just love this. We have bad air to deal with. This can deal with that while you guys are there to deal with the rest. I think the legacy company and the legacy that Big Water is drawing from Janajal is also serving very well, because people believe that you guys have been around for a while and you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, and that's what I said earlier on, is having that history of the project, I think, goes a long way in many aspects. And so, like I said, really interesting to talk to projects that have been around for, in your case, over a decade before jumping into Web3. Kind of turning to a different line of questioning, or just a couple of questions about this. I'm sure that when you guys were looking at Web3 solutions, you looked at a lot of a lot of chains and a lot of places. Yet you have decided to join us here in the ecosystem. I was wondering if you could talk about that decision and sort of the factors that came into play with that.
I mean, if there was ever a wish that got granted, then it was our desire to be part of the ecosystem. And I have to tell you that ecosystem, Peak has actually powered the entire DePIN collective, if I can call it. The entire sector is being galvanized by Peak. I think there is a huge amount of work that can be done, because even going forward, and with this entire ecosystem that Peak has built, I think it makes a very, very compelling environment for any deepen system to not only deepen initiative to not only come in, but also collaborate with other deepen initiatives. There is no competition. I think even if there are two initiatives doing this, doing weather data, there are different markets, there are different environments, there are outdoor environments, there are indoor environments, there are different value additions that deepen devices have to people's lives. So there is adequate room to coexist, and that is exactly what Peak is championing. And we are extremely proud. It's our biggest claim to fame at this point in time, that that we are part of the ecosystem, and extremely excited that the kind of support we've got from Peak is tremendous.
Yeah, it is. It's a really good ecosystem, and there's a lot of good projects and a lot of good ideas and thoughts and collaborations out there. And one of the benefits that I hear a lot about working with Peak and becoming a part of the Peak ecosystem is that we allow data transfer and data collaboration between projects across the network natively as part of that integration. And I was wondering if you had, I think you mentioned early on that, there are a lot of different metrics that you can collect, a lot of different information that you guys can collect with these devices. And that, got me to thinking if there were any obvious collaborative opportunities that you see, or if that's something that you're looking forward to, as being part of the ecosystem.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, we're starting with air purifiers today because it is a burning problem in the world. It is number one, number two between clean water, clean air. I think they figure in the top three, anyways, and universally. But going forward, we are also open. The big water protocol. The end game is clean water for all. But on the other side, we would welcome integration with any other IoT-enabled deepened devices that have sustainable contributions to make to society, to make to communities, to make to individuals. So I mean, just to give you an example, we've just signed an MOU with a global patent of an insole. It is a tech-enabled insole that slides into footwear, and that actually gives health data and preempts some serious issues to the human body. Now, that kind of, this is so, it's extremely effective for children, for sports persons, for athletes, for the elderly. I mean, it can actually call out a back problem 2 years in advance and help somebody correct their walk or their stride or their gait to be able to prevent it. Now, these are the kind of integrations that really excite us. There are other devices coming through. There are other protocols, other networks that are talking to us, and we're already, we've got a wait list of that on the side as well. But we're not getting distracted at this point in time. I think, it's very easy for us to get up to 1 million devices just with air purifiers in the next 12 to 18 months, and that is where we are strongly focused on. Put them out in the hands of the community, get them to work, bring the heat map onto the dashboard, and then show the world what the power of decentralization and DePIN is.
Yeah, that's a great approach. I think that's a really smart approach, is focus on what's in front of you, you know, make sure that that is sustainable. And like you said, you've got line of sight on an incredible amount of devices already just with the air purifiers. So let's not get too in the weeds or too distracted with other opportunities. But it's good to know that, there is that road that you can take, those opportunities that are available for you, once things sort of, I say, settle down. But I know, as you know, somebody who's close to a lot of projects, there's never any settling down of projects. It's always
Yeah,
just
yeah, there really isn't. I mean, settling down is more in the head than real life. I mean, you just keep wanting to settle down. Next morning you wake up and you just get down to it. But yes, I mean, that's where the sanity comes in, from a lot of the experience that we have of execution. It's very sexy, to really have cross integrations and to do so many things at the same time, but it can actually be a lure which can take you away from your core focus. So we are extremely, for us, it's about putting our head down, getting down to work, doing what we do best, which is just execute. That's all we are focused on.
So now that we've got everybody excited about what your project is all about, now that we have a really good understanding, I think, of the problems that you're solving and how you're solving them. If somebody in the audience is really interested in learning more, what's the best way for somebody to get involved, and where do they need to go?
So at this point in time, please join our chat groups. Follow us on X. Follow us. Join our Telegram group. Write in to us, info@bigwater.io. You can write into me, Parag, at bigwater.io. We're very responsive on the mails. We'd love for people to get involved. Big Water is of the people, by the people, for the people. We're extremely clear that there is room for everyone to play. 8 billion people that are suffering, and we're not even talking about the animals and the birds. So, if we talk about, bad air and bad water is a serious problem, and it's upon us to really take it up. We have an open mind. We think like water, extremely flexible. Please come in. We can create a conversation. We can find ways to get everyone involved. And there is an affiliate program that we're also developing, where, without having to worry about carrying inventory or managing logistics, people can just become ambassadors of this. So all early adopters will be invited to be affiliates. So I would strongly encourage people to really come onto our website on the 10th of March, and that's when they will really find the first opportunity to come in, participate, and really start championing this cause.
And if you don't want to wait, there is the wait list that you can sign up for today. I know I signed up for it this morning, so hopefully next time you look, you see 19 countries being represented. But yeah, if anybody wants to go to bigwater.io/waitlist, you can sign up for the waitlist there. And like Prog said, follow them on X. I had this queued up. Yeah, Big W Protocol is the handle on X. You can join their Telegram group or visit them at bigwater.io to get all of your information. Now, I know that you have already said a little bit about what's upcoming, maybe a lot about what's upcoming, but maybe for those that have joined a little later, you could go over sort of what's next on the roadmap. Like, what are the big things that are upcoming? What's going on?
Well, a lot going on. So that's the short answer to the question. But yes. So we are focusing on both on three channels concurrently, just to kind of give people a little sneak peek into that. So we're looking at the B2B, the B2C, and the D2C. So the B2B is really meaningful for us. We are talking to hospital chains, we're talking to medical centers, we're talking to what is called the HoReCa segment: hotels, restaurants, and cafes. We're talking to facilities management companies. We're talking to large IT parks, IT companies that have these massive floor plates, tens of thousands of employees. It's all about efficiency. It's all about work efficiency. I mean, if lungs get and lungs and the brain get oxygen, they're going to function better. So it's also about driving and optimizing, driving efficiency and optimizing people's performance. So I think there is a huge amount to take away, and we're talking to foundations. So a lot of foundations, we were pleasantly surprised. They came to the conversation with the awareness that, look, this is a circular CSR for us. So if we raise $50,000, we deploy them into devices, put them out in the community, and we share rewards between ourselves and the community, then we have adequate resources to go back to doing what we anyways love to do, and perhaps deploy more devices in the future, improve lives of people, bring all of that data onto our reports, and it's a win all kind of a situation. And for the first time, circular CSR has started becoming a mainstream conversation. And that is something we absolutely love, because this is exactly what the power of decentralization does. So it's about empowering organizations to become self-sufficient, to become self-reliant. They don't need to keep going out seeking new checks from new donors. they can actually go out into a cyclical mode, and the same check they can plow back over the next 3 to 5 years, if not longer. So there is a huge amount of upside that we see that this initiative has to offer. It does kind of overwhelm us at times. We keep trying to have our breakout meditation sessions, 10 minutes of nothingness, but just to be able to zero set and come back. But we are breaking it down. We are breaking it down to baby steps, and we feel confident that we'll be able to really take this to its logical conclusion and outcome, both.
Amazing. Really excited that you guys were able to take a little bit of time out of your busy day to join us. I think it's been really enlightening. I hope that everybody in the audience learned a lot. And just to reiterate, you said March 10th is the day that we need to be really paying attention. And
That
if you haven't already, I would highly suggest everybody in the audience go sign up for the waitlist or follow BigWater, Big W Protocol on Twitter, or check the website bigwater.io. But sorry, I cut you off. March 10th, right?
March 10th it is. Yes, absolutely.
Great. And I guess a personal question. These will be, out of the gate shipping worldwide, right?
That's right. They'll be shipping worldwide, no holds barred. I mean, nothing.
Well, I look forward. As everybody knows, all the regulars know, I'm a pretty big DePIN degen myself, so I will absolutely be looking forward to getting my device and putting it here in my tiny little office that could definitely use some air purification.
Oh,
So
absolutely, and I can't wait to have you and all the others here. Post pictures of themselves with the device, and tag us. We'll take great pride and feel really enthused about it.
I look forward to that as well. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you once again, Parag, for taking the time to join us today. I think it was really informative. And thanks everybody in the audience for taking the time out of your day to listen, because, there's two sides to this, and the community is important. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do this. So I hope you guys learned something exciting today, or a little bit more about BigWater. Again, if you want to support them, you can find all their links on bigwater.io. And Parag, I really look forward to having you on again. This was a great AMA. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited. I'm not going to be able to put myself to sleep for another 8 hours, but I can't wait to come back and come back with a lot of more updates, a lot of more developments, and report a lot of outcomes that we would have had by then. So watch out for this space. I can promise you guys, everyone here, watch out for our handle. Watch out for the space. It's going to be very exciting.
Awesome. That's great. I look forward to that. So once again, thanks everybody, and we will do this again very soon.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.